All right, beautiful ones. Welcome to the Doula House, Houston and Ghana. And today we're going to be talking about the beauty of the Lotus Birth. Hopefully, all are birth workers. I think some of you all are. And even if you're parents wanting to just get a little bit more information about the Lotus Birth, and we are going to be talking about that today. I am Dr. Akua with A Life of Peace Wellness Institute, and I am one of the instructors at the Doula House, as well as one of the instructors for the Holistic Doula Training Program that we at A Life of Peace. And the Doula House is our version of nonprofit work that we do for women in the community. And what we do is we make available volunteer doula services. We also have information classes, and we also help mothers with resources related to birth in terms of supplies, etc., and resources in terms of professionals that work with them in birth. So the Doula House is a complete resource center. We have one in Houston, and we also have one here in Ghana, West Africa, where I'm talking from now. So today we're going to be dealing with the Lotus Birth, and in this section, we're going to be And in this section, we're going to be talking about Lotus Birth, getting to know what it is, the benefits, and pretty much just how nature intended. Okay? So what is Lotus Birth? Well, Lotus Birth, in that particular terminology, was actually brought into the birthing world in the 1970s. There was a young lady who her name was actually Lotus, and she observed how in the natural birthing process of nature that most mammals, okay, she's taking it back to the original form, most mammals do not sever the placenta from the baby, okay? So a Lotus Birth is where we actually leave the placenta attached to the baby through the umbilical cord until it naturally falls off, okay? So it's not a very complicated process. It's not unnatural. It is something that is actually more natural than cutting the umbilical cord. So when we look at the Lotus Birth, we want to first pay attention to what was nature's intention. What was nature's intention for having the umbilical cord attached to the baby, attached to the placenta? And if you know anything about the umbilical cord, you know that it is a tough cord, okay? It is very hardy tissue. And so when we look at the bond between baby and placenta, this is the organ inside of the womb, because the placenta is an organ. It is the organ inside of the womb that nurtured baby from its very beginning of conception, all the way up until it came into the world. So there is actually a life bond between baby and placenta. Now, if we have to ask our questions, what was nature's intention for having the baby to come out of the womb and still be attached to the placenta? You know how they say nature doesn't make any mistakes. There is a reason for it. And so what we know is that when we allow the placenta, the baby, to remain attached to the placenta, there are many benefits to that. And it is the natural way that the Creator intended for baby to make its transition from the womb to living on its own in the world. There was a reason that the placenta was still attached. So what are some of these benefits? But before we look at the benefits, what changed? How is it that we've gotten to a point in the birthing process to where we have taken something that is naturally there and changed it? We've done that a lot with birth, because when the medical industry got a hold to the birthing process, because they said, okay, the way that we're going to schedule how to do birth from now on is the best way that women can birth. And that has been the quote unquote egotistical way of birthing since the medical industry took over birth. And what we have found is that so many of the natural components of birth were put to the side for the sake of medical birthing. And so women are monitored very closely in prenatal care, and that is a very good thing, okay? Because it has helped us to find when some things may be wrong with mom or wrong with the baby. Of course, those are very good things. However, some of the beneficial aspects of birthing have also been changed when it comes to what was naturally good for mom and baby. And leaving the placenta on was actually one of those things that was naturally good for mom and baby. And that has changed. So what are some of those benefits? Let's take a look. So when it comes to the benefits, first and foremost, the final blood and nourishment from the placenta after birth is still flowing into baby when baby comes out of the womb. Now, the medical industry has confirmed that this is really the case, that final little bit of blood going into the baby's body actually increases baby's blood volume when the placenta is left onto the baby, and the cord is allowed to stop pulsing before the cord is cut. And this is all kind of new lingo that's going on in the hospital births now, is to allow the cord to stop pulsing. And we also see it in natural mothers' birthing plans now that they're requesting, okay, you can cut the cord, but you have to make sure that the cord has stopped pulsing and that there's no more blood flowing through the cord. And the baby's ability to stop receiving from the placenta is actually ingrained in their umbilical cord. There is actually a natural barrier that happens when the baby's body receives all that it needs to receive from the umbilical cord. Okay, so baby's body is not going to receive anything from the placenta once that natural barrier in the umbilical cord is in place, once the baby has received all that it's going to receive from the placenta after the baby is born. Now, another benefit is increased iron storage. Remember, every component of blood has a component of iron in it. And when baby receives all of the iron from the placenta through the umbilical cord after birth, that actually increases baby's brain development. So children who have gone through the natural birthing process and have been allowed to receive that last little bit of blood from the placenta, they have shown, and there are studies out there, to be smarter than those that haven't. Okay, so it actually increases baby's brain development to receive that extra blood, that extra nourishment, that extra iron into baby's body when they're first beginning life. Now, it's also a natural disconnection from baby and the placenta. Okay, if you have ever cut an umbilical cord, and me being a midwife, I have cut umbilical cords before based on parents' request, because I am an advocate for Lotus Birth, because it answers WWND. What would nature do? Nature would leave the cord attached to the baby and the placenta until it naturally falls off. That's what nature would do. So that natural disconnection is even more gentle for baby's body than cutting the cord. And if you've seen placenta cutting cords, they're thick because that cord is literally like cutting through a tough rope. And there is a reason why it's tough like that, because it is meant to house that natural flow of fluids and nutrients from baby, and it has to be protected. Now, it is also less stress or injury to the belly button. So again, because it is a natural separation or a natural disconnection, it doesn't stress out baby's belly button by putting undue pressure on it. Now, we know that the placental clamp, the umbilical cord clamp that they use in the doctor's offices and in the hospitals, it's made of plastic. So that in itself is a toxic component because all plastics are made out of toxins. But from a natural point of view, if the umbilical cord needed to be tied off, what we have done for centuries upon centuries upon centuries upon centuries in terms of the way that we naturally birth is we use a small piece of cotton cloth to tie the umbilical cord. That's what's natural. However, because of convenience and design and money, because those clamps have to be bought, then we have these neat little umbilical cord clamps that are in our birthing kits that parents have to purchase. But ideally, it was just a natural leaf or either a natural piece of cloth that tied off the umbilical cord. And it's much lighter than the plastic clamp that is traditionally used in the medical facilities. And it causes less stress and injury to the belly button. Okay, so those are definitely some of the benefits. Now, how is it that we actually care for the placenta if we're going to leave it attached to the baby? First of all, you rinse it with water, and some naturopaths will actually recommend, or midwives will also recommend, that you rinse it every day. okay? I actually don't think that that's necessary. Once you put the salt component on it, you just refresh the salt and the herbs, but we'll kind of get to that in a second. You wrap it in a clean, absorbent fabric. Actually, cotton is preferred. Some people will advocate having chucks, but again, chucks have those blue plastic linings on them. And that too, although, it will stop any leakage from the placenta, it's still not the most natural. So I recommend natural absorbent cotton, muslin cloth, or even if you wanted to have a thicker cloth, you could use a natural linen. Then you also are to, again, some recommend that you wash it daily and that you keep it wrapped up in, again, a clean, natural cloth. Store it in a bowl, a pot, a cotton cloth, or a basket. Those are the normal ways of keeping the placenta close. And one of the things that I love about Lotus Birth is that it helps mother and family to focus on baby's health. So for those first 3 to 7 days that it takes for the placenta to separate from baby, baby is kept in a calm, quiet place next to mom. Baby's not moving all around. Maybe the baby has had their first bath, maybe they haven't. It all depends. Some parents actually look at delaying baby's first bath until after the Lotus birth is complete, which perfectly makes sense because the film that comes out, and I'm trying to pull out the name of it. If somebody can help me, just type it in the chat box. That film that comes out on baby is actually good for their skin and shouldn't be wiped off until the Lotus birth is complete, okay? And also, you cover it with sea salt, or some people will use pink Himalaya salt, and that helps to absorb the moisture of the placenta because we are dealing with an organ that is decaying. And also, you cover it. Thank you, Vernix. Hey, all right. Thank you. Okay, and then with the herbs also help to absorb any odor. And the herbs are actually very good aromatherapy for the baby and for mom, okay? So this is how you care for the placenta. Now next, we're gonna watch a very brief video, one of the videos that I show in the Holistic Doula training class of what it looks like for moms to go through the Lotus birthing process. So let's just watch this video and then we'll talk a little bit more about.
And I was finally feeling ready to prepare the placenta. So here it is in the bowl. You see it's still got blood in there because I haven't cleaned it yet. So I apologize now. I'm filming all this with just one hand because I wasn't feeling up for setting the tripod up and everything. So here you go. I've got the placenta. I'm taking it out of the bowl and I'm putting it into a bowl of water. I didn't use tap water because I don't like all the chemicals that are in the tap water here where we live. I've just used distilled water, and I'm just using the water to clean off the placenta a little bit more. Here you go, you see, and you can see the blood lifting off in the water. And then you can take this opportunity to get some of the blood clots off also. I was having difficulty doing this because I'm trying just to use one hand being I've got the phone in the other hand. So I did this a little bit more effectively later. But yeah, it's best to get any blood clots off that you can. And yeah, just give it a good clean. Okay, so next I'm just about to put it into the colander. You see, I put it in there and it looks a lot more clean now. You can see the placenta a lot more clearly. And I'm just going to move this. Again, I'm struggling because I'm just using one hand. So yeah, the video footage isn't the best. So I'm just moving the placenta out now, and I'm going to put it onto the muslin blanket. And you see that now here. So now my goal is just to get the placenta as dry as possible. And I like using these cotton blankets for this because they're very absorbent, especially if they've been washed a few times, because when you buy cotton, they often have natural oils on it and are less absorbent until they've been washed a few times. So this is an older one, so it's very absorbent. So I just dab it a lot to get the moisture off. And it's also a good opportunity to get any more blood clots off that might be left on there. And that's basically it on this stage. So here you can see she's here sleeping good with her placenta all cleaned up. And I leave it like this for 24 hours. I don't like to add anything until 24 hours has passed. So 24 hours has now passed. And you can see that the cord has started to dry out a little bit. It's looking quite different. So here I'm getting ready to put on the salt, etc. I'm doing it different to how I did it the first time and even second time. You can hear about how I did it the other times in my other videos. So you can see I've got some powdered myrrh, some Himalayan pink salt, and I'm using some juniper leaves from my yard. And I've just put a good amount underneath the placenta, just basically laying it on a bed of it all. And then I'm going to put a good coating on the top also. Now, the juniper leaves have a nice pungent smell and have good antiseptic properties, but you can use any other type of herb, like some I mentioned in my other video, for instance, or, something else maybe that you have in your yard that's significant to you. So you can see here another day has passed and the cord looks a lot more dry now. It's more like wire, like a wire hanger. So it's a little bit movable, but not very movable. And you can see the ribbon that I wrap around the top of the blanket to keep everything sealed in. And it looks very different, the placenta now. It's a lot more dried out. So I'm going to show you that a little bit. It's a lot smaller as it dries out because it has less water content in it. Oh, and please forgive any background noise. I'm literally been running around the house to find little corners that are quiet. I have 5 children, so it's not easy finding a quiet area at any time. So you see how it looks a lot thinner now from how it's dehydrated a lot more. And you can see how the cord is very dry. And at this stage, it's starting to get ready to detach. Once it starts drying like this, it's getting a lot closer to detaching. So now you can see I'm adding some more salt and some more myrrh. Each day, I look at it and see if I need to change the blanket out. I do it more than once if necessary. Sometimes you can get a lot of the kind of liquid or even the blood soaking through. So as and when necessary, I replace the blankets and then top up the herbs and the salt. So, yeah, and at the start, actually, you may find that you want to put a couple of blankets or a towel underneath the placenta because it can soak through quite a lot if you're doing it this way. And then as it gets more and more dry, then you'll find that you don't really have that problem anymore. So here you can see I'm just going to wrap it back up again. Now I've renewed the herbs on here. There we go. And I've tied the ribbon back on here, as you can see. And then it's very easy to move around to pick up. You see like this, the way I do it like this. That's why I like to tie it like that. It's like a bag. You can buy placenta bags, but I just didn't want to pay out that money. I didn't really find it necessary. And it's important to use a cotton blanket because it's nice and breathable. So it helps with the drying out process. You don't really want to be keeping it all moist in there. When you keep it moist, that's when it can go bad. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'll either answer in the comments.
All right, so that's an example of how to put the Lotus Birth together for yourself or for mom. Okay. So now let's take a look at the Lotus Birth supplies. Okay. What you'll need for Lotus Birth is an absorbent cotton cloths, non-chlorinated, natural basket or a cloth cotton bundler. You can see that down at the bottom, which is the made out of the kente cloth towards the bottom of the screen. Now, some of the herbs that you can use for the Lotus Birth, which has become very common, are rose petals, chamomile flowers, leaves, acacia flowers, lavender flowers, yarrow flowers, rosemary leaves, sage leaves, witch hazel leaves, uva ursi, lavender oil, and rose oil. And let me also add on there orange oil. I like to use orange oil, too, sweet orange oil. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the floor to any questions that anybody has about Lotus Birth. It is truly a beautiful, relaxing, stabilizing, because it helps mom to keep still after baby is born, and it also is not so rough on baby moving around, in the world after they're born, because some people just can't seem to keep still after they have birth. But I have found this to be a very soothing way of baby and mom transitioning, at least for the first week. What questions do you have?
Hello,
Yes, we can
can you
hear
hear
you.
me? Hi, Dr. Gray. It's Raquel. I have a quick question. Like, this seems like really, really interesting. But how does this work if you're working with a client and you do not have a space that you can keep or watch mom for like a week or 3 to 7 days? If you're just
Well,
like,
you
you know,
wouldn't, yeah, you
assisting.
wouldn't be the person there watching mom, no. I mean, if mom wants a Lotus Birth, then you teach her how to take care of herself, the baby, and the placenta. You don't actually have to be there with her during the whole time.
So it's more if mom definitely has like a support team where she feels comfortable that, she can basically kind of, be able to relax and sit still and monitor the baby. Because while I was watching it, I guess for some new time moms, they might be a little apprehensive with if they would injure the baby, if the cord will accidentally rip out, this all of those things. So are there ways that you can kind of like educate the mom and that it's a natural, safe process without injuring the baby, because sometimes we're so conditioned by the medical way that sometimes they may be thinking that it might not be something that they can really do or it's doable.
Well, it's not like you would be advocating for Lotus Birth with your uh with your moms. Okay. What you're doing is, this information is if you have parents that are requesting a Lotus Birth or would like more information on it. So it's not like we're saying, oh, this is the way you got to do it. No, not at all. But if a parent requests for Lotus Birth, then they're going to be up for what is required for the Lotus Birth. So it's not like, we're just saying, okay, this is the way birth is done. You got to sit still for 7 days. No, we're not doing that. It's only if they request Lotus Birth. And we're actually finding more young parents that are requesting Lotus Birth because they want to be as natural as possible when it comes to birthing their baby. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you.
What other questions?
Do you recommend the excuse me, the juniper that she mentioned?
Yeah, the juniper is fine because remember what I said is and also the sage. You know, oftentimes sage is considered a herb for moms to stay away from during pregnancy. However, when the baby's body no longer needs anything from the placenta, there is a natural barrier that happens right at the connection point where the placenta is connected to the baby that doesn't allow anything else to get in. So you know the saying that, you know, if the placenta gets an infection, the baby will get an infection. I've never seen that happen because literally the baby's body shuts off from the placenta when it has everything that it needs from the placenta. And so now the drying process speeds up. So what I've noticed is that usually it's not even 3 to 7 days. It's usually about 3 or 4 days when the placenta actually disconnects from the baby. I've never seen it take 7 days. But they say 3 to 10 days. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Oh, I have
beautiful
one more.
ones. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now it is, as long as the placenta is wrapped up and everything, it is safe for her to go out, or does she have to stay, in home, or do they travel with it?
Yeah, there are some parents that travel with the placenta and they just put the little baby bundle right in the baby carrier, the baby. But even before the baby's first pediatrician checkup, the placenta will have disconnected. So, you know, three days is not a long time to wait if a mother really wants to have the natural separation from the placenta.
Okay, thank you.
All right, beautiful ones. Thank you all for attending. And every time you attend a Doula House webinar, we always give a free gift to all of the attendees. So, but we do require you to do one thing. If you would reply to the email that you received from us and let us know what was the most informative part of the webinar today, then you will receive an actual placenta baby bundle for the placenta with the African fabric. So that's the gift that we have for participants today. So let me go back to that page. You see that little baby bundle right there? It's not that exact same fabric, but we are going to be sending out a placenta carrier for those who have attended today. So when you reply with your summary of what you enjoyed most about the webinar today, make sure to include your mailing address so that we can send you out your free gift. And I also want to remind you that our next webinar is going to be on Let me see. Our next webinar is going to be on April 2nd, and it is going to be about water birth safety. Okay, so for those of you that are interested in making sure that you plan water births safely for mom and baby to come out into the world, then that's going to be our next webinar on April 2nd. But you'll also, since you've attended this, get a reminder on that one as well. All right, beautiful ones, if there are no questions or comments, thank you all for spending this time with me today. I recognize some of the